Okay, now we're going to talk about what happens when we have a remainder after we divide, but we don't want to write that as a remainder. We instead want to write it as a decimal. So if we have 9,847 divided by 2, 9,847 is my dividend, and so that's going to be the number that I put in my division box. And my divisor is 2, so that goes out there. Now I'm going to divide like I normally would. So 2 goes into 9 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8, so that's what I'm going to subtract from 9. When I subtract, I get 1. I bring down the 8. 2 goes into 18 9 times. 2 times 9 is 18, so I subtract that. I get 0. Going to bring down my 4. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 times 2 is 4, and so I subtract 4 from 4, I get 0. I bring down my 7. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6, and so we can see here that I am left with 1 when I subtract 6 from 7. Now, I've run out of numbers to bring down to continue this problem, and so this would be my remainder, but we don't want to write the 1 as a remainder. Instead, we are going to write it as a decimal. So if you think back to last week, we talked about one way to increase the number of digits in a number without changing the value is to annex zeros after a decimal point. So on any whole number, I can always put a decimal point at the end and annex a 0. Now, if this was already a number with a decimal point in it and digits after that decimal point, I wouldn't put another decimal point. Instead, I would just put some zeros. I would just annex some zeros so that I would have more digits to deal with. Because now, if we watch what happens, I can bring down this 0, and I'm now able to see how many times does 2 go into 10. It goes in 5 times, and it goes in exactly 5 times, and so I'm left with a remainder of 0 down here. But I can't forget that because I put my decimal in my dividend, I need to make sure that that decimal point is brought up into my quotient. Okay, and so my answer to 9,847 divided by 2 is 4,923 and 5/10. We could also read this as 4,923 and a half, which makes sense because when we had 1 left over, we had 1 out of 2 left over, which is a half.